Everybody. So I just got done watching my video from yesterday, and I also generally whenever I'm doing these videos, I've also just got done looking at like the statistics and the stuff for the channel. And yesterday I lost a subscriber, which is the first time that that's happened. And as a person, I just truly like one of the things I'm truly blessed. I've got very like when I was younger, I used to have to like really work hard to try to survive, and I didn't really have time to think about stuff, just about life and stuff in general, because I was just trying to get by. I literally you know like I did not. It was a struggle. It was a real struggle to get by, and so I've always truly enjoyed the fact that now in my older years that I can just kind of look at life and just like think about things and just try to figure out, make sense of what's going on around me. I mean, I just can't even tell you. And I don't know. I think I'm lucky that I went through that, because I think a lot of people, well, a minority of people, but some people, like most people, either go through their entire lives and they really never have time to think about stuff. They're just struggling to get there from day to day. And then some people like go their whole lives where they're just always thinking about stuff. And then the problem with that latter situation is that you don't actually get to appreciate how much thinking about stuff is. So anyways, I lost a subscriber, and so of course I thought about it, because that's what I like to do. And my first kind of take was I was actually very concerned a couple days ago, which is yesterday, a couple days ago for you, but yesterday for me, that all my videos have been like sort of long, sort of just trying to understand architectural issues, not doing a lot of coding. And I was just like afraid I would lose subscribers because of that. So there was that. And then the timing of losing a subscriber, along with me having those thoughts, was kind of like, oh man, is that really what's happening? But then I put more thought into it. And I know that like I've worked in big corporations, kind of like YouTube and stuff like that, and business decisions are made, and like someone may have like from time to time, my understanding is they go through and they like um, find out like has a account become inactive, and if they become inactive, should we get rid of all their subscriptions, because that's just a bunch of data. They're constantly trying to prune their data, make it useful and all that. So it could just be just a crazy coincidence, or it could be a result. And let's just kind of go into a vacuum here and just imagine it is just a result of the format, the way I now have at this moment in time. I'm not uploading videos where I do a lot of coding. I'm doing more videos where I do a lot of talking like this. Well, in some ways, like I feel like you shouldn't sort of validate yourself based on like what people around you think, but you should be aware of what people around you think. So to me, I kind of look at it as like, let's say there was a room, and in that room it had something you wanted, and you need to go in that room, but it smells bad in that room. For the most part, 99 times out of 100, you should probably just do whatever you need to do to get in there, grab it, and get out of the room. Just get what you need and all that. But you should note, hey, there was a weird smell in there, and I need to sort of think, is this like, did that smell like a gas leak, or was that just like, was someone in there before and you know, they just let it rip? I mean, there's just no telling, but you should at least consider information around you, but you shouldn't be like, I'm a horrible person because it smells bad in that room, right? Like you should consider what's happening around you. So anyways, if someone did leave because the sort of I've gone into more of an architectural mode, that's a shame, because it's like I probably won't stay in architectural mode very long. I've just kind of gone down this rabbit hole. And my other channel my other channel that I uploaded yesterday, that one was weird because there was this inheritance issue that I hadn't been around a long time, because Angular does a good job of insulating you with that. So that ended up being a real shit show, that whole thing. So it's just like, or maybe I think I've been cussing a little bit more lately, and maybe someone just was like, oh, I've been watching this with my 6-year-old, and that guy, he used to never cuss, but now he's cussing, I mean, there's just no telling. But I definitely think I should not cuss. That's probably a bad idea. It's a habit. Cussing is a habit. I remember when I was in the Navy, I used to cuss like a sailor because I was a sailor, and literally every third word was the F word, and that became a habit, and it was a habit that did not go over well once I became a civilian. And cussing in general, well, when you're at the down and dirty levels of coding, being around coders, it can sort of inject a little energy into the environment. It's a very, very bad habit, and it's probably something that you should try to temper down. But anyways, where am I? Where am I? Where are we? The problem is, a few weeks ago, I decided to go in here and I was working on fog because I thought fog would be cool, and it is. Fog is really cool. And then I decided to add two. There's two kinds of fog: a linear and exponential, and an exponential. And then for some unknown reason, I decided, oh, whenever I want to validate these things. And then I got it working, and then I knew it when I started that it was going to send me down a rabbit hole that I wasn't going to be good for the channel, but it was probably very good for me personally and for my growth, right? Like, I knew that there was a dark mess there that I was going to need to at some point in my life, where it was a good idea at some point in my life to wrestle with. There's an evil spirit that I need to wrestle with, that I've been afraid of. It's a boogeyman, the whole validation thing. And it is exactly what I expected. Like, it's just a real mess. A real mess, and I'm proud of myself because I didn't cuss there, so I'm starting to break the habit. But it's a real mess. And the reason it's a mess is because validation is very, very, like, Angular's created very, very specific things to handle validation that only works in Angular and only works with forms. And you have to, if you want it to be like a beautiful solution on your screen, you have to play ball with this. You have to, there's like Angular material specific things, there's Angular things, so you have to play ball with that. But the problem is when you get that, if you only acknowledge that, then what happens is you can't use it outside of Angular forms. You just can't. It's like everything's too specific to use outside of Angular forms. So you have to kind of create a more general solution. Then you end up with these layers and layers and layers of abstraction, so that you would be able to do it. Which then this morning I was thinking about it, and I was like, man, if I were to start from scratch, and I may actually start from scratch on this project once I prove a few more things, because this is starting to show me some things that I probably should have done differently. But if I do, in fact, start from scratch, the next implementation of this, I will start with Uploader. I will be able to upload a CSV. Probably the CSV will have one thing in it. It'll probably just have a cube, and that's it. And then I'll be able to upload that cube and then break down that CSV and then draw it on the screen. And then the next thing I will probably do is make it to where I could have two different file formats. I could have a JSON format that also has that cube, and I'll get that working. And then I'll say, okay, let's maybe at that point build some UI so that you can control things, and then make it to where you could save it back into CSV or back into JSON, right? And build that whole thing and start with that as the kernel seed of this application. And that would probably have been a good idea to do it that way. But this thing as is really cool, and I don't really want to abandon it quite yet. So that's where we're at on that. So that's how we got where we're at. And what we have is a big bunch of code. And yesterday I sort of broke down what is still missing from this code. And I left out one thing, is I had decided that I do want key up. So I don't even want you to be able to enter A there, but so I do want that validation. And when I first thought about that, I was like, oh, that doesn't need to go all the way to the top because it's UI specific. But I've changed my mind. I do think that validation does need to go all the way to the top to the general validation. And the reason I think that is the case is because this isn't maybe the only UI. Like I would actually think it would be very useful and interesting to have a UI that looks more like a tree structure, and you kind of dig down in the trees. And the reason I think that would be very useful is because, like, though I've been working on this, I'm knee deep in this. Is a camera part of the scene, or can I have a a renderer? I think a renderer is tied to a div, and then you need a scene to be part of that renderer, so the renderer knows what to render. But then, let's say I have two divs and I want to look at two different angles at the same time. Is that is the camera above the, like, where does that live in the whole thing? And it would be pretty easy to figure out, but it would be really nice to be like, oh, I have my tree, I have 6 renderers. Oh, I have, yeah, six equal sized things. Oh, I've decided that this renders div needs to be like all the way across, and then all the other maybe the other 5 are lower, are individual, like how all those pieces fit together would be very, very interesting to me. But anyways, that is neither here nor there. So now I know where I'm at. I know I've explained where I'm at. I've maybe lost another subscriber getting to there, but like I have to get this straight in my head, and that's where I'm at. And I only want to work on this straight in my head because I have to work on this out loud in the English language, and that formalizes this knowledge and wisdom that I'm trying to accumulate when I do it in human language, as opposed to just dropping down into sort of a lower, more primal coding mode. And you get drop into that lower primal coding, it's like, I don't know, like I have never been around this whole roofing concept that I hear about, where I guess it's in fraternities and stuff where they roofie each other, and then like a bunch of stuff happens, and then they wake up on the other side and they don't remember what happened and all that other stuff. I have been like blackout drunk a couple times where I didn't remember. People were like, "Oh my God, last night you did this crazy stuff," and I have video, and I'm like, "Oh my God, that was me." And that's how coding is, right? Like you drop down into the slower level, you've done a bunch of coding, you come back out, you try to explain what you coded, you have no idea what that was, and all that. And that's probably the number one reason the number one benefit to doing this is it's helped me sort of take that knowledge from kind of dropping down into that primal coding mode and knowing all this stuff when I'm in this mode, and then I come back out, and now I'm aware and I understand things, and that's the main thing. And what I need to do now is get this code, this text here. Oh, no, I need to get this from a token, right? And the token is this positive float. So when I get this positive float, when I give it the secret handshake and it has positive float in there, I want a function that will return this function. And then if I get a different one, like let's say it's just any float, so it doesn't have to be positive or negative, then I get a different function. So that's what I'm going to create today. I'm going to create a function. So yesterday I created a function that will return you the text for this token. So this text is all that. And in most places, there's a whole nother layer of, most enterprise environments, there's a whole nother layer of abstraction, because most places want this to be multi-language, even though they never do multiple languages. They want this to be multiple languages, so they're going to have like, oh, you get this token, and then you go get another token, and then you get that other token, and then it checks to see what the language is, and then it returns you the thing. So we have that layer of abstraction that we don't have to work with. But so I want to say get, and I don't want to call it a validator, because validator means something in the Angular world. So I'm going to say get validation function for token. And the token is the validation types. And I apologize that this is super, super abstract. And if you haven't been watching all the videos for the last couple weeks, and I'm very impressed if you have watched all the videos, because it's very hard to find them all in order. And there's been a lot of back and forth and weird stuff in that. And we do not want to return a string here. We want to return a function. And I'm going to just do this. Return. I mean, I could figure it out what this is, you know, because I've used it in a couple other places. But I'm just going to do that. And so what this is my secret. It's not quite so much a secret. It's more, it's, okay, there's secrets that other people want to know, and then there's secrets that like you only know because nobody else cares. And that's that kind of secret. Like very few people care about this, but if you ever have to strongly type things, this is a great method for getting the IDE to tell you what the thing is. So it's saying, hey, you can't. This. And I don't want a comma there. It's saying you can't, that's not a string, that's this. And I go, oh, okay, thank you. And I get this thing. And I hate using the word this because this means something in JavaScript, but this is what describes the floating. So now I can say that. And then so basically right now it doesn't care about the token. So now I'm going to say, and this is how I do this sort of thing all the time. Token equals, and it should give me the choices. Yeah. So if it's positive float, then I want to return this validator. Another thing I'm doing right now that is very unusual for me is I'm writing a bunch of code that isn't I'm not actually using it, so I'm not like testing it. Like if there's a bug in there, I won't know. And this sort of, when you're writing a lot of this kind of code, it is the perfect sort of situation for like test-driven development, where you write all your tests that say what the code should do, you watch your test fail, and then you write the code that makes the test pass. And that's a really great way to kind of make sure you think through everything. And it's really perfect for this kind of code. Unfortunately, and I might lose subscribers by saying this, yeah, you can tell I'm all traumatized by that. Unfortunately, the problem is that test-driven development really is not ideal for most development. So while it has its places where it's really good, and if you live and you write a certain sort of code all the time, test-driven development is a great idea. I'm babysitting a couple dogs, and one of them is very vocal. She's still a baby. She's only like 9 months old or 10 months old, so she doesn't know any better. But you know, I'm hoping she mellows out as she gets a little older. But anyways, so this would be perfect for test-driven development. Not all code is perfect for test-driven development, in my personal opinion. So now I'm going to create a variable called fun. What we need is a little more fun. And I'm going to say that, yeah, see, this is kind of, so we don't just want to, okay, I don't know what it's just because it's bad. Okay, it can either return this, or it can return a null. And I don't know if I always never know if I need to put parentheses. So it looks like I need to put parentheses. No. Oh yeah, because it's still upset about this right there. No. What is the problem? Oh, it's upset because I didn't return the fact that I didn't, in that signature up there, say that it might be undefined, and we were returning undefined. And it's always fun because there's always this state where like you get like young guys that, so that's fun, and it's kind of cool to have fun, but you get like young guys especially that they go through sort of this, and I don't know, I don't think it's so much today. Back in the day when you had like a lot of Gen Xers coding, and Gen Xers really wanted to work their craft, so they needed this creative outlet. They would get to where like they would use like lots of dirty words and stuff, but they weren't really dirty. So like this is fun, right? For function, not for fun, but it's nice, But they would do where it once you set them all together, it was always like a funny little thing, kind of like a license plates or whatever. But anyway, so now we have a function, and it takes a token, and if it gets this positive float, it's going to return this function for this token. If it gets anything else, it's going to return a null. So now what I need to do, so this is validation service. Underneath validation service lives UI validation service. Underneath UI validation service lives the components TypeScript. And so all of this stuff needs to propagate all up and down that line. And it's very confusing on why we need to do that, because all that implementation is there just because in the future we're going to have a new way of bringing these things in, and that's going to be through imports. And then it's going to make more sense why that needs to be done. And it is so hard to code around things that are going to come someday, because there's a very good chance that you're going to miss something. And when you miss something, it might be very, very difficult to undo that mistake. And if that happens, that's going to be a real bummer. And it might have made sense at this point to actually like abandon this code, or at least say mark this code for being abandonment as soon as we prove that we can do an import, and then just shut it down and start all over with a simple import, like a different kind of code. But I'm going to soldier on through and try to get this to work, because I've become a bit emotionally attached to this code. Anyways, happy coding, everybody. I actually like the Georgia Bulldogs, and apparently this is the Hook'em Horns. So, and I don't know what the Georgia Bulldogs thing. And actually, I only like the Georgia Bulldogs mostly because I live in Georgia, and everyone's a lot happier when Georgia wins. So, like yesterday, Georgia beat number 5 ranked Georgia beat number 1 Texas. So in Texas, they're all mad, and here in Georgia, if I go out and drive around, they'll all be happy. And I like it when we're happy, and I feel bad for the people in Texas, but go Bulldogs, hook 'em horns. Happy coding. Bye.